Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Late Night Intercourse with Chioma. Your host as usual is Chioma Onyenucheya-Uko, otherwise known as the Zest family lawyer. So tonight, I want us to have a conversation. One of the things I observe that many of us do not carefully pay attention to, and I think this is going particularly to those who are considering marriage now, who have not yet formalized their unions. I mean, you haven't exchanged marital vows. And then maybe for some of those who already have, it may be worth a thought. So as you're planning marriage, as you're considering marriage, and for those who have, many of you went through multiple layers of marriage ceremonies, right? From the traditional to what you call the church marriage, and then going to the registry, which some people call court marriage. Of course, there is no such thing as court marriage. I hope you know that. So all of these layers of marriages, towards one goal, right? Having a valid union, a marriage that is valid for all intents and purposes, right? That's good. But think of it. Particularly, my concern will lie on the marriage that is conducted in church and then the marriage that is conducted in the registry. Why do we have to do those two layers of marriages all towards the same goal? So you want to exchange vows before your Christian brethren and before God, quote and unquote, so to speak, right? And then you think you must do that and also go to the registry after you have done this, expending avoidable sums of money and, of course, energy and other resources. Why can we not have this marriage done in the church, but done statutorily, such that it conforms to the provisions of the Matrimonial Causes Act, such that it becomes a valid marriage for all intents and purposes? A statutory marriage, that's what I mean. Because when you go to church and conduct a marriage ceremony, and that church is not a licensed place of worship, or the license of that church has expired, I hope you know that more or less what you did was just a ceremony and nothing else. It does not conform to the standards to, make it a statutory marriage. It means that you still have a customary marriage, though conducted inside a church. So it means that though you say that you profess the Christian faith and want your marriage to be bound by, statutes, by law, that marriage is not bound by any law except your native law and custom. The only time that marriage can be bound by the law as prescribed under the Matrimonial Causes Act is when that marriage is conducted in a church that is licensed to officiate marriages. So it means that you need to ask your priest, make that critical inquiry. Is this church licensed to conduct marriages? If the answer is not a clear and verifiable yes, then maybe it may be enough for you to just do your perform the traditional rites as your communities may dictate, and then find yourself in a registry and do your statutory marriage. Because it doesn't make sense for you to go to a church and waste all of that time and funds and other resources, and it is still a customary marriage that you have. And for some churches that have been licensed, a church may lose its license if after 5 years they don't go to renew it. So you may have heard that your church is a licensed place of worship, and then you think it means that they can conduct marriages. If after the period within which that license is valid, they don't go back to renew it, every other marriage conducted after the expiry becomes simply a customary marriage and nothing more. And you may be wondering, Is that all that is necessary? Maybe after I confirm that the church is a licensed place of worship, does that then mean that just about anybody can walk in and have a marriage? That's not what it means. What it means is that after then, you need to then confirm that the parties that seek to contract this marriage are persons who qualify under the law as eligible to conduct a marriage. So who are the people that qualify? First of all, they must be people that have attained the statutory age to give consent to enter into a marriage. So they must be at least 18 years and above. Granted, there is a slight exception to that under the law, where, parental consent may weigh, but I won't talk about that tonight. That's not the focus of this conversation. But generally speaking, parties must be of age. They must have come of age. They must have been up to 18 years and above. That's the only time they can give an informed consent. And it must be a consent that is not gotten under duress. So it can't be that kind of consent where one mafia in your community or one big man thinks he can breathe down someone's neck and say, I want your daughter in marriage. It's not that kind of consent where a family compels a young girl to say yes just to appease her parents. It's not that kind of consent where the person who is saying yes does not have a full mental comprehension of the nature of the relationship they're about to get into. So the person must be mentally stable and not under any form of influence. And it must be a consent that is freely given. So once you confirm that there is consent between parties, it must be that it is a free and informed consent. And after we cross that layer of qualification, the next will be to ensure that the parties are not constrained by their degree of affinity or consanguinity. You want to know what that means, right? So what it means is that they must be of such level of relationship. Their relationship should not be that they are related maybe by marriage or by some other similar relationship that makes them ineligible. That means that they do not qualify to get married. Because under the law, persons who are related by marriage or by such other similar relations are not permitted to marry themselves. The other will be what I termed degree of consanguinity. Of course, that's a provision of law. And the law says where people are related by blood, that means brother and sister are not permitted to marry under statute. A father will not be permitted to marry a daughter. A mother will not be permitted to marry a son. And such other similar blood relationships. So long as they are not bound by these relationships, yes, they are free to get married. And like I said, it is not just enough to ensure that it is consensual, which means free and informed consent, that they are of age, which means that they are at least 18 and above, that they are not restricted by any degree of affinity or consanguinity, which means that they are not related by marriage or by blood, and that, they are of sound mind. And the other critical condition will be to confirm that the parties are single at the time of considering marriage. You know that sometimes people may have been in another marriage without fully disclosing to their intending spouse. That is dangerous because any such marriage contracted, which happens without the previous marriage being, dissolved, means that the party who entered into this new marriage is not eligible to enter that marriage, and that marriage becomes void. So it means that whatever ceremony the both parties, carried out is not a valid marriage. So it's important to note that. And I'm saying this particularly for women who get carried away because they fall in love. And then they tell stories like, he told me he has returned the other bride price. He told me that they're in court, they're trying to get a divorce. He told me this and he told me that. I'm not saying that women don't also deceive men, but I'm just saying that most of the stories I hear come from women alleging that the men deceived them. When you hear such tales, do your due diligence. Make sure to confirm that if a previous marriage is alleged to have ended, that you find evidence that it truly ended before you say, I do to this person. And please, importantly, I know you may be wondering, so now that I'm already married before hearing this, how do I determine that my marriage is a statutory marriage, though it happened in church? It's simple. If your marriage certificate bears the name of a church, has the logo of a church, I'm sorry, it is a marriage blessing that you went for. You just went to do a church blessing for your marriage. It means that your marriage is still a customary marriage. That certificate must have the emblem, that's the coat of arms of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It must be on a white sheet of paper. That sheet of paper is usually rectangular, which means it's long like this, a bit short, short by the width, long by the width and then short by the height. It is rectangular and it is white and it has the coat of arms of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And of course, it contains a few other details that I may not fully disclose in this video. But just know that if your marriage certificate has the name of your church, the logo of your church, anything of the church that seems to show that it is a product of your church, it means that the church simply officially blessed your marriage. You did not contract a statutory marriage. And all of those. Once all of these qualifiers are established, then back to where we started. They must ensure that if they wish for that marriage to be a statutory marriage and they wish to have it conducted in a place of worship, a church, they must ensure that that church is licensed under the law to officiate marriages. If they don't make that confirmation, they will simply have wedded in church, just as a ceremony or as a marriage blessing and nothing more. They will still be bound by native law and custom. I hope we are well guided by this, brief conversation tonight. Are there questions you have? Do you want to verify the kind of marriage you have? Do you have, are there concerns you would like to share with me that you want to hear my thoughts on? Feel free to drop them in the comment section. And of course, I'd like for you to follow, share this video, and invite your friends to follow too. I promise we will always have enlightening family law conversations here, where we will dissect the socio-legal implications of some of the issues that affect family and domestic life. As usual, it is the Zest family lawyer, Chioma Onyenucheya-Uko, and I'm looking forward to coming your way again. Next episode, same time, same channel, and as always, do enjoy a beautiful night rest. Thank you.